What's up? We should be back. Computer did the awesome thing and just like decided to blue screen on me. And so hopefully everything is back up and running. And hopefully the YouTube video connected back to the same one. Let me see if that's what happened. But chat, once we get things up and running, if you could give me some shout outs if you are still here, if things are back up. Okay, it did not connect to the old video. So let me go and do something here. Because I blue screened. Okay. We back. Okay. Let's go. Yeah, I love it when we just randomly blue screen in the middle of doing stuff. Fantastic. Love that from me. Best in class. Never been done. And so yeah, so this was an interesting deck. It was I have played against this once when I was like very early getting into Lorcana. Like maybe like set 6. But this was the first time I had played against it since then. And I don't even remember if that other deck was Steel, or if it was doing some other stuff with Jafar. But it was a very interesting take. Oh, and Dio, I should say, I think I saw you post that you had not tried this game yet, but you were looking at some MTG Final Fantasy cards, which is exciting. I have not bought any Final Fantasy cards in paper. I have been playing on Arena. And so we lost this game. We are now down 0-2, which means we basically have to play perfect to have a chance to top 8 from this point forward. And so that's where we're at. Things are in the danger zone. The good news is my opponent for round 3 dropped and decided to not play the game. They decided to go home. It's now like 1:45, 2 o'clock in the morning. So very reasonable thing to just peace out and decide that you would like to go to bed. And that's what they did. And so shout out to them. Got my first like win of the tournament because they did that. And so I will take it as a win after 2 very brutal, first matches. And so then in game 4, my third actual match, I played against Amber Steel, Steel Song in specific. This deck is built around having a whole bunch of songs. I think 20 is like the average number. And I think there might be some variants here. Like this version was playing Be Our Guest. There's another song, I believe it's Bare Necessities, that some of these decks play. I didn't see that. But the way that this deck works is it tries to get ahead on value by singing songs earlier than they're supposed to be. So earlier when we talked about songs, a character that has 4 or more cost can sing this for free by exerting that character. And so this deck tries to get around that. And some of that is because characters literally have the ability Singer. So this is a 1-drop that lets you sing a 3-cost song. And then another way that this gets around it is that they have this Rhino, 1/16th Wolf. And then they have this Rhino, Power Hamster. And so the way these characters have Shift, which is basically you can play the one with Shift on top of the other one for a reduced cost. We talked about this a little bit with our Elsa over in part 1. And so what this does is this lets you actually sing a 4-drop song on turn 2. Rhino is also just super defensive. When he has no damage, he gains resist 2. So that means that like you have to deal 3 damage to him to even be able to break through that resist. If you don't deal 3 damage at once, or more, I guess technically, but if you don't get 3 damage at once, then Rhino just doesn't take any damage. And so it's a very difficult card for us to get around. This is the same problem that we have with Big Sisu, is that a lot of our characters have 2 power. And so we don't have a lot of options to get rid of Rhino. This is one of the reasons that I was wanting to play this Elsa, because she can give support 3 to a character, and then that character guarantees gets through the Rhino's shield. A problem, of course, being she's a 6-drop. and she has to quest, so it's not until the next turn that she can give that buff. And then typically Rhino comes in on turn 2. And so theoretically you could play Anna as early as turn 4, but that's very rare that you would be able to get that much ramp to get to 6 on turn 4. It has happened, but is very rare. And so, and then I will say though, then with that, generally this matchup isn't too difficult, asterisk, unless the Steel Song player just has a crazy good hand. And so it's kind of the prerogative here is on the Steel Song player to establish the board and get ahead. And then if they do, then you a lot of times will have trouble. And so like they have Smee, that is just a 3/3, but if you don't have a captain, he takes a damage. And so this can be pretty nice because, as previously discussed, we have a lot of 2s. And so if they quest with Smee, then you hit it with a 2 power character. You do take it out. Smee also puts 3 damage on your character. And so you can get into a situation where you have Genie. You hit Smee for 2, Genie has 3 damage, and then you play Big Bell to move that 3 damage onto one of your opponent's other characters and take them out. So that can be really powerful. This is also a good way of getting rid of Rhino because moving damage isn't the same as dealing damage, and so it gets around resist. And so it can be a great way if you can take out their Smee, then shift your Bell, take out their Rhino, quest with Bell, and you've kind of 2 for 1 to them. Or really, I guess 0 for 2 to them, or 2 for 0 to them, where your Genie lives, and then you kill both their Smee and their Rhino. And so it can be a really good play there. And then what else? This deck has Aerial Sonic Warrior. So whenever I love this art, I love the circle around her. But whenever you play a song, you can pay 2 to deal 3 damage. And so when a lot of the songs already deal damage, this kind of becomes sing a song for free, pay 2, deal 5 damage. Deal 5 damage here, deal another 3 damage here. Oh, sorry, 5 damage. Here, deal a whole bunch of damage, snipe another thing with Aerial. And so it kind of gives a lot of interesting options and can make it very difficult to stick characters on the board because you have to both be able to survive Aerial and survive the song. And if you go wide, they can potentially snipe 2 different things. And so, game 1, my note says I ran over them. And I think what had happened was they just never got any of their card draw songs. I think they had the little Aerial here that I think hit. Oh, they had a one of I find them, I flatten them, which destroys items. So they had it for the blue-red item list that we talked about in our first match. Because that card, banishes all items, so it can be a really good way of setting back that deck. But it's pretty useless against my deck when we only have Popsicles. And so, which again, typically we aren't even leaving in play. And so, he hit that off of an Aerial. He never saw Whole New Worlds. I don't know if he was playing Namari. I never saw it if he was. But he just kind of fizzled out, and then Blurple did what Blurple does, which is hold them back from getting ahead from that point. And so I was able to pretty effectively just kind of run through them and kind of chug through a bunch of different things, which is exactly what the deck wants to do. And so that went well. Happy to have that. Happy to get a win. So again, things are going well. In game 2, I did lose. My note just says needed one more of them in game 2. Not really sure what them is. Even with taking notes, I don't necessarily recall everything. It is also 2:30, 2:45 in the morning at this point, and so we are struggling. But yeah, what could that have meant? Needed one more of them in game 2. Yeah, I don't remember. I think in this game, I had to make. Oh no, that was in game 3. So game 3, um, I was on the play, and on so I think my opponent went first in game 1, and I beat him. He then when you lose, you typically go first in game 2. He went first again and had a pretty good hand. And this is when I kind of just think his deck just kind of chugged and did its thing. And then in game 3, I was on the play. And being on the play is, of course, a pretty big advantage, with the ideal being that like you can just kind of establish your bells, establish your ramp. You're just ahead of your opponent. And like spending 5 ink first is great because then you've spent 5 more ink than your opponent. But in this game, what had ended up happening is we got to a board state where I think they had a rhino and then 2 aerial, or a rhino and an aerial. That's what it was. And I think aerial had, oh no, and then I had a possicle in play. And so what happened was I went and I played Monstro, who is a 6/8. So, and then I attacked and killed their rhino, took him out of the game. And then I had the option of, do I want to take aerial out of the game or do I want to leave it in play? Because I had 2 cards in hand. And what I ended, my worry was that, oh, I guess you don't need a possible in this situation. I did not have a possible. Just kidding. Yeah, because I did survived without it, the first hit. And so, but since Ariel has 8 defense, you have to hit her twice with Monstro. And so, because Monstro is a 6/8. And so, so I had 4 damage on it from Rhino, exerted to attack Ariel again, dealt 6 damage to her, and then had the choice of like, do I want to discard my last card in hand to trade my Monstro with his Aerial, or do I want to like leave Monstro back and hope I get another turn? I made the decision to discard and attack with Monstro. In hindsight, it might have been better to not attack Aerial at all, and just kind of sit on my 4 damage on Monstro, and save my 2 cards in hand. My worry there was that he was going to just like be able to sing songs and snipe Monstro for free. And I didn't really want to like leave his Aerial on board. But we ended up getting into top deck mode, where we were both just kind of like playing one character, like 1 card a turn. One of us would answer the other one's character. And then like, we just couldn't really get ahead or anything. And then we ended up going to time. And so the way that time works is that there's 5 turns. Whoever's turn it is when time is called is turn 0. Then you alternate back and forth. So I believe I was turn 0, turn 2, and turn 4. And then he was 1, 3, and 5. And like we both hit the point where like we could easily prevent the other person from winning, but neither of us could easily win on our own. And we both just kind of locked each other out. And took the draw, which isn't great, but we did kind of get through and were able to like resolve the match, I guess. So that's nice. And so I'm now 1, 2, and 1 win, 2 losses, and a draw. And then in round 5, my opponent conceded. He just wanted to watch the finals. And so he said I could have the win. And so I took that. And so we ended up 2, 2, and 1, for the match. And so I ended up like just outside of top 8, which was great, except for the fact that like both of my wins were gimmies. And the one match that like I actually played, ended in a draw, or the one like win that I could have had ended up in a draw. And so that was very frustrating. Just as like a way to end the night. Ended up getting home at like 4:15, 4:30 in the morning, which was something. And then, yeah, so that was that. That was my first set champs, which then brings us into second set champs. And so, like I said earlier, I'm going to close the links for the other decks. Hopefully we don't need those. I did make some changes to the deck in between games, and that is specifically changing 2 different cards, or changing 2 cards for another 2 cards. And so we took out the Anna magical mission for 2 Cusco Selfish Emperor. The reason that this change was made is that when you play this character, you can put chosen item or location into its player's inkwell face down and exerted. So this is kind of a reaction to the Lucky Dime problem from the blue-red items list. And then he does have this cool 4 ink ability where you can give your other characters resist 1 till the start of the next turn. That's fun. Plot twist, like we do use that. But it is not really what the card's here for. It's here to answer Lucky Dime or Maurice's workshop. And so the reason that I took out Anna is because in our colors, there isn't a... Oh, we don't want contains. We want character Anna. Anna. No. Just, okay, whatever. I don't know why that is being so difficult. But the problem that we have is there's not really an Anna that we want to play that fits our curve. Like, I like this, like both of these 3-drop Annas would let us shift the other Anna onto it on turn 4, and then we could play Elsa on turn 5, or with 5 ink. But the problem is, like, if this deck is playing right, you don't really use 3 ink. Like, we are playing, like, Madame Mim and Peter Pan as, and Merlin Crab. So, like, we do have some 3s. But that's not really where this deck wants to be. It wants to go 1, 2, 4, and skip over 3, because you ramped on turn 2. And so that's the issue with both of these Annas. Like, this one is cool. When you play it, each opponent chooses and exerts one of their characters. Interesting effect. But they get to choose, which, like, they're going to just, like, give you the character that matters the least if they exert them. It's also not inkable, which, like, I'm not a huge fan of, but I would need to play it to actually have a more, like, specific opinion. And then there's this other Anna, which I really like. When you play this character, if you have a character named Elsa in play, you can put the top card of your deck into your inkwell face down and exerted. So this ramps you if you already have an Elsa. Very rarely is that going to happen, but this is inkable and it quests for 2. And so I could see some version of, like, playing this as, like, another early drop, especially post-rotation, and using this as a way of, like, filling in some of that middle slots of the deck that we're losing when our Madame Mims and our Merlins rotate. And so maybe some combination of these will get played. I don't know. But I am interested in seeing how the deck's going to develop there. But because of that, this Anna just kind of always felt weird to play. Like, there were games where it did great because I was able to, like, play her on, like, 6, and then on 7 play Elsa, take, like, quest with Anna, draw a card, give Elsa challenger, take something out, and draw a card. Yeah, draw a card. But, like, a lot of times it just felt like a weird play pattern to need to do that. Of course, you can always play Anna after you've played Elsa. She still gets the effect, but, like, it just always felt weird of, like, when to play her. And after getting trounced by Lucky Dime that we just couldn't do anything about, I wanted to try Cusco. And plot twist, Cusco was useless. Like I said, we did use the by invite only, but I don't think I ever put an item or location in an opponent's inkwell. We just did not play against Ruby Sapphire control or items, and just kind of never needed the ability. I think there was only one Ruby Sapphire player in the tournament, which was very strange because the shop that I play at and at the first set champs, there's a whole bunch of them. But I think there was only one. And then I think there was a blue-green items deck that was in the tournament, but I never, like, played against them, so I never actually saw that deck. And so we just, like, never got to use the effect. I'm going to keep it in the deck, because I do think it's going to help the Ruby Sapphire matchup, but, we'll see how this kind of shakes out. It kind of hits on one of the things that I really like about, Blurple, which is that you have a lot of these like toolbox cards. And then like I'm playing a very draw heavy of the version of the deck. Oh, I actually have this backwards. I was only playing 2, and was this wrong on this one too? No, it was correct on this one. I was playing 4 rabbits, not 4 goats. But yeah, so like we're playing a lot more draw than usual because we're not playing Tamatoa, which this deck will often play. We did that. I was considering taking Ratigan out, but I ended up leaving Ratigan in the deck, partially because I was thinking about switching to a 3rd Finders Keepers and replacing there. But I did leave Ratigan in just to kind of have it as a test. I'm just kind of trying more of that. And so let me get some water while we get ready for Set Champs 2. Okay, so Set Champs 2 is at a normal time when normal people are playing cards. It started at like 11:30, and so loved that for me. And so our game 1 was against Amethyst Emerald Lyle. This is like, again, I don't know if this is my actual opponent's list, but this has like the vibe of the cards that he was playing. Like again, I never saw this like Isabella, but like this deck is kind of like in the vibe of what happened. And this was the only version I could find that was playing Lyle. I'd never seen this card before. My opponent said it was like one of his like pet cards that he really liked. And since it's about to rotate, he wanted to play it in the Set Champs, which is a fantastic reason to play the cards that you like. And I think he Lyled me in game 1. So the way that this card works is when you play it, chosen opposing character gains Reckless. And then whenever one of your other characters is banished, each opponent loses 1 lore. So the idea is that you play Lyle, they have to attack one of your other characters, then you steal they like sap away a lore, which is pretty cool. The problem with this as a playing against like Blurple is that we just have Elsa. Like we just have a way in our deck already of exerting our opponent's characters. And so when he did that, I was able to just play Elsa, exert his Lyle, and then take it out with the character that he had given Reckless to, instead of having to attack into a different character. And so game 1, we were able to kind of just win off of valuing him and keeping keeping Lyle and stuff at bay. Game 2, I had shifted Big Elsa, so our 8-drop Elsa, and then I was in pretty good shape, except he then played Lyle. And so Big Elsa quests for 3, on top of locking down 2 of your opponent's characters for a turn. But he was able to just like lock this down, and then I just couldn't get anywhere. And then I had a Let It Go in my hand, but he hit me with Ursula Deceiver as a way of making me discard that card. And so this is not like a discard deck, but like he was able to basically just strip away that resource and made it like very difficult for me to play. And then I don't really remember. He did eventually get some stuff in a library, I think, but it wasn't necessarily anything too crazy. Then in game 3, I was able to get a very like evasive heavy draw. In this list, and I think in his list, like there's not like he's not playing genies as in the 4-drop slot, like there's rabbits. And so I think I was just able to play my evasive threats and just like he has Elsa as his only evasive in this normal list, or in this list that I pulled. And so I was able to just play a bunch of evasives and get to like mid-teens on lore. And then I was able to finally play Ratigan, Greedy Genius, and get the win. So this one has ward, they can't target it, quests for 4. And so I was just at a place where like he could not answer my evasives and he could not answer my Ratigan. And so between those, I was able to lock it up. And so in Set Champs 2, we are 1-0, which is a much better way of starting than starting 0-1. And so pretty happy with that and happy with how this turned out. Then in round 2, we played Blurple. This was, I think, my first time I had ever played the mirror match. And wow, the regular version of this deck turns out is really good. And so like this is 44 characters compared to our normal 42. And then this does something much better than much different than what I'm doing, which is this is just a lot tighter with 4 ofs. And so like 4 of Tipo, 4 of Belle, 4 of Fox, 4 of Genie, like 4 of Goat. Like there's just a whole lot more 4s, including 4 accomplished mystics. And then this is playing Hades and Tamatoa, both of which I'm not playing for cost considerations, because Tamatoa is, or at least was, like the most expensive card in Lorcana. And then Hades is an expensive card from set 1, so it's rotating, and so I just haven't wanted to drop the money to pick them up. And so game 1, I was able to defensively play Monstro and like snipe a bunch of stuff. And then I got to like a very challenging point with Monstro, which is when do you want to use your discard effect to ready him, but not attack something else? And I made the decision to do that, and it actually paid off. And having a Monstro around for the next turn, I think was able to get me enough lore to get ahead, to win, not necessarily because of Monstro, but because of that boost from having both the threat of Monstro, but also having those extra lore. Because like the way that discard works is you can ready them and then he can't quest for the rest of the turn. But you can quest first, then discard a card and he's ready, and then you can attack something. And so this was pretty cool. I liked like having a great defensive ready with Monstro. Game 2, what had happened was, I played Belle on turn 1, or pretty early, and was like able to kind of do some stuff there. And then I was able to like Belle to sing Friends, draw a Finders Keepers, play Finders Keepers for 5, play another Friends, and just like I drew a whole bunch of cards, but I did not like aggressively ramp enough. So like I just had a bunch of cards in hand, but I couldn't deploy them fast enough. Like I wasn't able to convert that card advantage into an actual win. And so like I should have been much more aggressively playing Tipo. So like I think in that situation, like, and again, I don't remember exactly what was in my hand, but like instead of playing Finders Keepers, after drawing cards off Friends, I should have deployed a Sail or deployed a Tipo or done something else to make a move on the board, instead of playing that Finders Keepers. This was a game that like I would love to go back and watch because I feel like I misplayed, and I just like would like to go back and look at where it was, because I just don't know exactly like what I did wrong, other than the fact that like we just kind of couldn't do anything once we hit that point. And because Tamatoa and Hades are so impactful in the mirror match, like he just got so far ahead of me and I just couldn't do anything. So yeah, that was rough. So we're 1-1. And then in game 3, honestly, my note says just couldn't get anywhere and ran out of cards. So kind of the inverse of game 2, where I drew a whole bunch of cards and like couldn't convert them into a winning line. And this one, I just didn't draw enough cards and I ran out of stuff and then I died. And so, I guess we could move like into this area, couldn't we, when we're doing this? And so, yeah, so we just kind of did stuff, didn't get where we wanted to be, and that was kind of a struggle there. So we're 1-1 for the day. Again, you need to win. If you get 3 losses, you're out for sure. you can get in with 2 losses. So I have 1 loss to give for the rest of the day, but we are definitely in trouble now that have had this loss. And so round 3, I go into what is probably my second least favorite deck in all of Lorcana. And that is Amethyst Emerald Discard. I strongly dislike this deck. There's also an Amethyst or a Emerald Seal discard deck that I think is my most disliked deck. But I really don't like this deck. It's the same as in Magic. Like, it's a deck that thrives off your opponent not getting to play the game. And that is just kind of lame. No knock to anyone that plays them, because I think it is a very strong deck, as is the Emerald Steel version. But it can just be very aggravating to play against, because if they get like you down to 1 card, it's very easy for them to just kind of keep you stuck on 0 cards, or keep it so you only get the 1 card you draw each turn. And so this deck is built around Diablos. You can see a whole bunch of them, like basically all of the Diablos that you can play early. And then they're playing the Shift Diablo. So this one's really strong because to shift it, you don't have to pay ink. You can shift it by just discarding a card, and then it's evasive. And then during your opponent's turn, if they draw a card while this character is exerted, you get to draw a card. So the idea is pretty typically to play one of like play this Diablo or this Diablo. And then, and if you play the green one, the emerald one, you get to check your opponent's hand and see if your big Diablo is safe. And then on turn 2, you discard a card to play this for free, and then quest with it. And then because it's evasive, it's very difficult to get rid of on your opponent's turn 2. And so you can typically start drawing a bunch of cards, but you just kind of get stuck with not being able to do much there, or do much against it other than feed them cards. And then this has a discard package as well, as I was saying. So like they have the Ursula that my round 1 opponent was playing, which makes you discard a song. They have Chip, which makes you, your opponent you get to just choose a card, but you have to discard one. They have Pull the Leveler, which you can make an opponent discard a card, or you can draw 2 cards. They have Wrong Lever that gets powered up if you have Pull the Lever in your discard. They have Hypnotize, which makes you discard a card, then they get to draw a card. They have Sudden Chill that makes each opponent discard a card. They have We Don't Talk About Bruno, which bounces a character to your hand, and then you discard a card. So there's just kind of this whole package that is just like, hey, you're not going to have a hand. And then through all of this, they have Prince John, which is whenever an opponent discards a card, you can draw a card for each card they discarded. So like something like Hypnotize, where they discard a card and you draw a card, becomes they discard, you draw 2. And then you're also drawing off Diablo when they draw. And so it can definitely bury the deck in value because of all of that. Game 1, my opponent ended up having a very unlucky hand where I think he had 1 Pull the Lever and maybe 1 Sudden Chill, but other than that, didn't draw any actions the rest of the game. So no complaint from me there. We were able to just power through and keep his characters off the board. I think I had to feed him a handful of cards in this one into a Diablo because I just needed to ramp because I had to hit Genie. And so but maybe that was the next game. I'm not 100% sure. We were able to just kind of snowball and stay ahead without any major issues. And then in game 2, it was a lot tighter. There was a lot more back and forth there. I think he was able to get 2 Prince Johns developed. And then he was able to get some Pull the Lever, Wrong Levers going, and then was able to Sudden Chill me more. And so we definitely had some struggles there. I was able to get pretty lucky with Friends on the Other Side, Finders Keepers, and then the draw from my Rabbits and Genies, where I was able to basically always be able to protect my card draw. So I was able to keep it so that he could never put me to 0 cards in hand. And I was always able to have a card that I drew, play a card to draw another card. And so I would have 2. So at least I would have some choices. because one of the challenges with this deck is, we don't talk about Bruno, is that it can be very difficult because if you have 0 cards in hand, they bounce a character. You have to discard a character at random. Well, or card at random. If you only have 1 card, you have to discard that card. And so you kind of have to make sure that you're playing around Bruno because you want to just always have another card that hopefully you then won't lose the good card, whether the good card is the card in your hand or the good card is the one that they bounced. And so it can be very tricky. This one, and I think he was playing Peter Pan and Iago like I was. I could be remembering that wrong. But my note says I just got him with Genies and Elsa, and was able to set up a pretty good win there. And then I was able to slam a Ratigan. And I think I had a Ratigan with like 0 cards in hand. And then I drew another Inkable to keep Ratigan alive. And so I made him have to challenge Ratigan and he was able to take it out. But it was after I had already gained 4 lore. And then because he had to take out Ratigan, he wasn't able to take out my other characters, and I was able to get there on board the next turn. And so we're 2-1. We have played 2 Amethyst Emeralds, and I'm at like I think I'm at like table 3 at this point, and so we're doing pretty good. And then we go into Plot Twist, our 3rd Amethyst Emerald deck. Although I will say, shout out to y'all Amethyst Emerald players, because like all of these decks are different. Like they all have like the same core cards, but they are super different. And so this one it has discard as a value piece, but it is not a discard deck. And so like it has wrong levers or pull the lever, wrong lever. It has We Don't Talk About Bruno, but it is not playing chips. It's not playing Prince John's. It's much more of like a tempo list or an evasive list, as they call out here in this deck's title, than it is an actual make you discard your cards deck, which I definitely got wrong. And it's playing Ursula as well. When somebody asked me afterwards, like, oh, are they on discard? I'm like, yep, because they had made me discard cards, and I didn't realize at the moment that like, oh yeah, it's definitely a different deck that just like happens to have some discard rather than a complete discard focused deck. And so game 1, I was able to snowball and get ahead of them. I don't remember too much of what happened here. I will say I think this Diablo showed up for them as like a 1-2 with Challenger 2, and was able to just kind of do some good work at keeping like policing some of my stuff, because it was a lot more difficult to like attack in to take out like the shift Diablo if they had this one also on board. And so it made things a lot more challenging. Game 2, I don't know if it really would have changed anything, but I definitely miscounted how much lore my opponent had. They were at, I believe, 14, and they had 6 lore on board, which means they were going to win on their next turn. And I definitely counted that they had 5 lore in play. And so I made some decisions and played some lines and then quested with a character, and then realized that they had the win. And like I had friends on the other side that I could have sung to draw more cards. And I could have basically played my turn very differently, but I was dumb and just did not count correctly. And so my opponent was able to take me out. I think they also got me with this Cricky, using this as another way of like sniping an Elsa, or maybe sniping a Genie with maybe it was this Diablo, but just lets them pump or punch up really hard. This does give a bonus to all of your characters. I don't think that was ever relevant. I don't think they ever challenged with more than 1 with Cricky, but it definitely is an interesting thing. And then game 3, they triple Diablo'd me for this Diablo. And so every time I drew, I don't think they ever had all 3 exerted, but there was a turn where they had 2 of them exerted, and I ended up having to they had I don't remember if it was the actual win on board or if they were just close to it, but I ended up having to draw 4 cards, which drew them 8 cards. And there was just yep, you got it, because there's no way I'm coming back from giving you 8 cards. And so So they got that win. So we're now 2-2. Again, you have to get a third win to make top 8. Or at least with how this tournament was shaking out. Maybe there was some world where draws could get there. So I ended up having to play a winning in for my final round. And ended up playing against Amethyst, Ruby, like evasive-ish. But this is a very similar deck to my deck, just in terms of like you look at this breakdown of colors. It's just like very similar of like, yeah, we play some of these, but then it's like purple, 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 purple. And this deck kind of has that similar vibe where like it does have like Ruby, but it's a whole lot of Amethyst. And so this deck has like Ursula here. That's a good challenger. It has foxes, Peters, crabs, genies, Yagos, goats. Like, again, a lot of this is the same stuff that we have in our deck. And then he never played this Madam Mim, so I don't know if he had this. And then he was playing this Hades Ruthless Tyrant, which when it quests, you can deal 2 damage to a character of yours to draw 2 cards, which is very spicy. Feels very risky. But the fact that you can do this every turn, theoretically. And then this also gives you damage that you can remove with Bell. And so it's an interesting like synergy piece there. So yeah, so you play it, deal 2 to a thing, draw 2 cards, and from then on, every time it quests, you get another 2 cards just for dealing 2 damage. And so you do have a lot of big stuff too. Like they have, like Elsa can take some pings, Iago can take some pings, like all of the foxes and pans and crab and Ursula, all of those survive. Genie, go, like everything survives what's going on. And then they have like Finders Keepers as well. They have, compared to our deck, that is about like when we remove things, we typically put it in our opponent's Inkwell. They have Brawl, which just lets them get rid of one of your characters. They also have Be Prepared, which just banishes all the characters on the board. They did have the library in play, and we're able to move some stuff over to it. So whenever a character is banished from there, you draw a card. So one of like the really good like strategy things is you get this Diablo, you move it over to the library, then you attack one of your opponent's things. And so even though Diablo dies for dealing no damage, you get to draw 2 cards, which is pretty good. This also works well with Broom. So whenever you play another character, you can banish this character to draw a card. So like you can quest for 1 while it's at the library, play another character, banish it, and draw 2. And so there's some cool stuff there, as well as just like the general value. And then the Half Shark in the room is that they are playing Maui Half Shark, one of the other best cards in the game. And the way that this works is 1, it's evasive. And then 2, it has Chi Hu. Whenever this character challenges another character, you can return an action from your discard to your hand. And then whenever you play an action, you gain a lore. And so it's super good because you can use Half Shark to return Finders Keepers or Brawls or Friends or Pirate's Life, which makes an opponent lose 2 lore and you gain 2 lore. So this with Half Shark, this makes your opponent lose 2 and then you gain 3. And then because this plays Pan, anytime Pan is on board, Half Shark gains Rush and can attack in right away, which makes it very difficult to quest against. This is a very hard matchup for us, mostly off the back of Half Shark. Like, Half Shark is just very hard for us to play around. And then the value that it gets if it can challenge one of your characters is just really difficult. And, like, other than Monstro, nothing can survive a hit from Half Shark in our deck. And so that is very difficult for us. And so game 1, did I put in, I didn't write any notes because we'll talk about why later. Did not write any notes, but he got me good. I feel like there was some good back and forth, but he was just able to synergize. I think he Half Sharked twice against me, and was able to get back Finders Keepers, and then was able to like draw 3 cards. And then I don't think I could answer Half Shark, so I think he had another turn with it. But I could be wrong there and misremembering. And yeah, so like it was just a very good, very well played match from my opponent. The I haven't talked about round length. The rounds at this tournament were 55 minutes. And so we had extra time. And I think this first match took like, I don't know, 16, 17 minutes, something like that. So we still had like 30 something left in the round. And then game 2 took the remaining 30 something minutes. And this one, it was super back and forth. It was a game where I felt like I had the game locked up like 6 or so turns before it ended. And then it just took me a while to get there. It's something that like I talked about in our other video for the tournament that I played in, which is the idea of like, sometimes you like in Magic, especially, there was the idea of like, if you're in a control matchup and you know your opponent has it, it's best to concede so you can go to game 3. That's a lot less of a thing in Lorcana. But we kind of got stuck in this like pretty big back and forth match. And then, like I said, it just took me a while to close it out. And so I ended up getting the win off the back of my own Merlin goat to gain the last lore that I needed to win the game. And I think like the first 20 minutes of this match, I think I had 2 lore and he had 3. So like just kind of as like we finished the other match or the other game in the match in that time. And then in this one, like again, we were like low single digits 20 minutes into the match. And so it was just a very big back and forth. And I think we ended up just like staring at each other for a while, like character wise. We're like, neither of us could quest. Neither of us could really do anything that put our characters in danger. And we just kind of ended up sitting there until like eventually that stalemate broke. And so I think I possibly could have quested more aggressively towards the end of the match, but it was just so scary. And like I said, Half Shark is just like this insane threat, especially if we can't get any damage on something to take out Pan. Like, it's just so hard to do that and to get ahead. So we finished game 2 with a minute and a half left in the round. We started shuffling up and then ended up kind of discussing where we were at in the match or in the tournament as a whole. We were both 2-2. And then I think we were in first place of the 2-2s. The way that it works, similar to Magic or similar to a lot of other games, is that ties are broken basically by how well your opponents did. And so if you lose to people that have won a lot, you're in a better position than if you lose to someone that has lost a lot. And so I think both of us had losses to people in like the top tables. And so we were in really good shape there. And like I said, I think we were the top of the 2-2s. And so we were basically at a point where one of us was going to top 8 if the other one lost. But if we took a draw, neither of us were going to make top 8. And my opponent looks at me as we're like shuffling up and like drawing first hands. And he goes, "Have you ever won a set champs before?" And I was like, "No, I've never even top 8'd." And he goes, "Okay, good game." And he just like gave me the win. Because he had won a set champs and wanted me to have like the possibility of going for my first win. And so like, shout out to the class act of an opponent there. Like, that was amazing. That meant a whole lot to me as someone who has never top 8'd. This was my 3rd set champs. So it's not like I've played hundreds of them. But I had never top 8'd a set champs. And that was one of my big goals with this set. So shout out to them. Because of that, he basically like, this is the Jafar that you get for top 8ing. He basically like paid for my entry into both of the set champs that I'd played so far because of the value of that card. And so, yeah, that meant a whole lot to me. Shout out to them. We're not naming names, of opponents or players or anything like that, but, yeah, huge class act. Very cool of my opponent to do. Definitely something that I hope I can pay it forward, to someone else in the future. But yeah, so that meant a lot. That was super kind of them. And that put me into my first top 8. And so, I would say with this, I think if all things had been considered, I should have conceded to my opponent in this match. Because I think there's a very strong argument that, in the matchup, his deck is better. And so I think they're like in a world where one of us has to concede to the other, all other things even, I think he is the one that should have gone to the top 8, which I think is part of what makes that even a kinder thing for them to have done. Where like he beat me in like 18 minutes and then it took me 40 minutes to beat him in game 2. And so shout out to that opponent again. Like it was super kind of them. Cannot speak highly enough. And like I said, it meant a whole bunch that somebody would do that for me. So now we need to not waste it, right? We're in a first top 8. And who should we go and play? I should also say at this point, like the tournament started at like 11:30. I got there and hung out with one of my teammates beforehand, and we played some practice games and like just kind of got the hang of our decks. Since we hadn't played since Friday, or at least I hadn't played since Friday. I don't know if he had played any other games. I know he hadn't like been to another set champs, but, so we just kind of played some games, but we got to the shop at like 10:15, 10:30. It is now like 4:30 and I have had zero food since 10:30. So we're going on like 6 hours with no lunch. It's now like almost dinner time and we're going into top 8. They asked us if we wanted a 5-minute break and most people had said no. And I was like, if we're taking a break, I want a 30-minute break to get food. Like, so it's like, so I think we should start because I don't want 5 minutes. I want like a long break where I can actually get dinner. And so we immediately went into top 8. And who should I play against? Except for the wrong, it was this list. The list that we lost to in round 4. The way that the tournament works is you're seeded for top 8. So first place plays 8th place, second place plays 7th place, etc. And so I was playing second place, who was the guy that had beat me in round 4. And so we've kind of already talked about this deck. In this one, I got very lucky. They had played Diablo, and I had to sail the Azurite Sea to draw a card and ramp. And then I was able to, I'm going to close these other tabs. Okay. And then I was able to, on my turn 3, play Peter Pan Shadowfinder to take out his Diablo. And so it was a great play. It's really, that wasn't the turn that I entered the unknown, or the game that I entered the unknown. Apparently that was the next game because that's the only note I have for game 2. So somehow I was able to take out, I think what had happened was I had a very bad hand. I mulliganed all 7 cards and then drew no ramp. I think that's what happened and what my note meant. And so like, I just played one card, he played one, like, and then like, just kind of went back and forth. And then on turn 3 with no ramp, I was just able to snipe my Peter Pan into his Diablo. And was able to use that as a way of getting ahead or keeping him from getting ahead since he was now down on cards. And then in game 2, I had to, that was the one that I had to into the unknown on turn 2 to get Diablo. So into the unknown is this card that puts a chosen character, exerted character, into their player's inkwell face down and exerted. So it's really good at hitting big characters because you can use it as a way of getting like Tamatoas off the board if they're exerted, or half sharks or things like that. But the problem with it is that if you hit a shift card with it, like Diablo is, they get to put both cards in their inkwell. And so what that meant is that like they had 2 ink in play. I sang into the unknown off of a bell and ramped them from 2 to 4, which like is very risky. But I think my hand was like friends on the other side, finders keepers, goat, fox. And so like I had like 3 in some other card. Like I had like multiple ways of drawing cards in my hand. and was just like, I have to do this. Oh, and I had a sale. That's what I'm. So like I had to do that before I could play sale. Otherwise, I'm going to start just feeding him a whole bunch of cards. And so it's a very risky play just because it lets your opponent skip to 5 ink. But thankfully in this game, plot twist, it paid off. And so I was able to actually get the win and get revenge against this opponent 2-1. So that felt really good as well. And then kind of off the back of my round 5 opponent being so kind to send me to top 8, this also made it so that I at least got a win in the first round and put myself into the semifinals. And so that felt great. Until I realized who my semifinals opponent was going to be, which is the Blurple deck, the other Blurple deck in the tournament, and the person playing this that I had played in round 2. Right, yeah, in round 2. Matches didn't go great. Kind of the exact same thing. Game 1, he just kind of steamrolled me. There wasn't a lot I can do. Like I said at the beginning when I was talking about the deck, it does great if you're ahead, but really struggles if you fall behind, with my version in specific. And I just fell behind and stayed behind. The deck has so much card advantage. Ours has a lot of card draw. Like my version does that plays Rabbit, because like these versions, most of them don't actually play Rabbit, but they have Tamatoa. And so Tamatoa just has the ability to like get your Possibles back from your discard and just does so much for you, and which then even makes it more likely that you're going to hit your Hades or hit your Monstro or whatever. And so it's hard to get ahead. And then of course, like both Tamatoa and Hades are such big characters that it's hard to get ahead. In this game, my opponent also got Belle into play on turn 2, and then Queen, how's it going? And on turn 1, and then on turn 2, 3, and 4, sang Friends on the other side. So basically got 6 free cards. And so Belle was basically 1 mana for Possible to draw a card. So they've spent 1 ink. They then played Belle, which is free because they banished a Possible. So they've spent -2 ink. And then they sang Friends 3 times, which is 9 free ink. And so in those first 3 turns, they basically got 11 free ink worth of stuff. And turns out that's really good. And so I had some stuff in play, but couldn't answer Belle in time. And then I think on turn 5, he inked Tamatoa, which is an awful sign because that means they have at least 1 other Tamatoa in hand. Because he had so many cards, there's no other reason he would have inked Tamatoa in that specific situation. And so it was like, oh, well, that's coming for me now. Love that for me. And then he ended up, again, kind of just valuing me out. Then in game 2, he had a very good Monstro, where he was able to take out 2 of my characters and put a handful of damage on Monstro. And he might have had a Tamatoa in play as well. And I was able to play, he had chosen to not do the defensive ready with Monstro. He said that he was really thinking about it at the end, but had not done the defensive ready. And so I was able to play my own Monstro and snipe 2 of his characters, including his Monstro. Unfortunately, we just didn't get there. And I was able to get his early Belle off the board, but might have prioritized that too much. I was just scared of game 1, and I was scared of Belle locking down my other characters because I don't think I had a genie, I had a goat. And so I was like, okay, well, I can take this out and make my goat safe for next turn, but maybe I should have played goat and then played fox. I don't know. It was a weird situation. And so in the moment, I felt that Belle had to die on turn 2 or turn 3 or whatever, but I don't know. It was a hard place to be. And so I ended up losing in the semis. And so I ended up in top 4. So third, fourth place, kind of in the tie for those between those two. And so, yeah, overall, like, kind of other than this, the other Blurple deck, it's cool that I actually like beat all of my opponents. So like we lost to the evasive Amethyst Emerald deck, but then we actually like got our revenge on them in top 8. And so like that was pretty cool. And like that was a fun way of like having a good intro to the top 8. I kind of wish, for the sake of like wanting to live up to the kindness of a stranger who gave me intro to the top 8, I would have loved it if I would have been able to play for an actual win. But I'm very happy with the results of this and getting to get my first top 8 in these like local tournaments. Definitely a good confidence boost going into, I'm going to try to do another set champs this coming weekend. And then a good confidence boost just kind of going into other local tournaments. Cause there's a handful coming up. And so I want to go and try to play some more, get some more wins, get some more like gameplay under my belt. And so being able to make a top 8 again, even though like set champs are by no means like the most competitive tournament, for it being my first like actual top 8, it felt good. And it was even for all the time, like granted, I have not played a lot of like competitive Magic the Gathering, like relatively speaking. I'd also never top 8'd even like a local tournament in Magic. Some of that was just because of like my job at the time, but like I was never able to like take the time away to go and play competitively and have a shot at even like those local tournaments of getting top 8. And so, cause a lot of them were on Sundays and I just couldn't play on Sundays. And so, cause I think like Magic has, I think it's called store champs, whereas this is set champs. And so I just could never really have the time to go and do that, or it was like standard, which I didn't play. And so, but yeah, so overall, very excited, very happy for what we were able to get done for these first 2 set champs. Like I said, I have one more. We'll see if I end up doing another video to talk about that other one. Probably won't, just based on timing and when things work out, but we'll see kind of how that shakes out. And so for people in chat watching this later in the VOD or any of that stuff, I do want to know, have you ever top 8'd and or won a set champs? If so, what or which set was it? How did it go? What were you playing? All of that kind of stuff. And then I also want to know, hey, what was a like act of kindness that someone has done for you in the trading card scene? And so again, shout out to my round 5 opponent for putting me through to top 8. And so yeah, so let me know, what is it that you've played? What's your favorite? If you played in the Reign of Jafar set champs, how'd it go? Again, like kind of what did you play? What do you think of this current format? And I'm really curious to what people are thinking as we get ready for Lorcana's first rotation with the release of Fabled in like a month and change. And so Deanna says, I like Disney things. And so, yeah, so let me know what you think. Let me know what you've been playing, all of that kind of stuff. We will be calling stream here, because I need to go take the trash out and get ready for bed. And so I hope everyone, had a great time listening, hanging out, love chatting Lorcana. And like I said, I hope you have a good night. I will catch you later. Bye.